Hey folks, what makes this toy great? Today we're looking at an oversized knockoff of an undersized G1 Transformers combiner. It's of dubious provenance, but I'm pretty sure that I picked it up in New York City, Chinatown in the late 90s. It would have been around 97 or 98 when I was there visiting a friend. And you could pick these up for like $10 in the gift shop or the souvenir shops. And this is what I grew up with in terms of KOs. They were these multicolored abominations and usually drastically reduced in quality, right? Much simplified. The plastic is cheap and flimsy. This one's worth a pause to appreciate because it's actually really high quality and a very faithful rendition of the G1 Transformers Dinoking. I'll explain a little later why I know this is Dinoking and not Monstructor, but I only have a Monstructor, so we'll use him for comparison. You can see the KO is twice the height of the real Monstructor, but point by point by point, all the details are there, even down to the handgun and the kibble on the back. And the set comes with a bonus toy, which is an extra Wildfly, or from Dinoking, the Yokuryu character. This is in scale with the original toys. Why? I don't know. I guess on the tooling they had a little bit of extra space for one more piece of plastic and they took advantage of it. And a quick word on KOs or fakes or bootlegs or counterfeits or third party or whatever it is I'm supposed to call them. I have yet to hear a coherent, consistent taxonomy for the different kinds of KOs. But if you have one, please share it in the comments. I would love to learn. Here's my Masterpiece Tracks, and this is a fake. And boy, you'd be hard pressed to tell this from the real thing unless you just had them side by side, put on those reading glasses. And yes, that is a blaster sitting in his driver's seat, which is really cool. But I love the kind of KO that this Dinoking represents, this multicolored abomination, the simplifications, the retooling, the little extra pack-in toys. This was the fun stuff I grew up with in the the late 70s and early 80s. So these always make me happy. Now let's transition into what makes this toy great. It's a great toy on many levels, but the packaging is actually really cool. So let's spend some time on the packaging. And here's the packaging. He was packed fully assembled in a bubble on a gigantic card. I've obviously removed the toy already, but this card was a real bear to try to pack into my carry-on luggage back in the day. I want to take a tour around the writing on the card because it has such a great connection to how these toys were marketed back in the day. So starting at the top with these big two characters, this says Ingwang, which is Eagle King. And it's not entirely clear to me whether that's supposed to be the name of the toy or if that's the name of the brand like that produced the toy. I think it's the name of the toy, but there's a little inconsistency later I'll show you, so it's not entirely clear. There's no other marking that tells you like the city it was made in or the year it was made in or the company that made it. There's just a little gold sticker in the top corner that says made in China. This view also shows us why this has to be Dinoking and not Monstructor. This art here right below the brand is clearly Hasbro Takara promotional art. For Dinoking, the colors, the shape of the head, this art does exist elsewhere and they just ripped it off directly. Next we'll move over to the left and these characters say Konglong Zan Dui. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you listen to any more of my bad Chinese, but this means dinosaur battle team or squadron or battalion, something like that. So dinosaur battle team. So that's another clue. This is very clearly intended to be a Dinoking knockoff. It doesn't have anything to do with monsters. Then we'll move down the page and we've got some English here, which says all these pieces can be transformed into the Dinoking. It's misspelled a little bit, so it looks like Dinoking. I'm not one to poke fun at bad English. Goodness knows I can't do any better in any other language, and I can barely keep up in English. And now we'll move down to the bottom left where we have the most direct and explicit description of what this toy is. It says something to the effect of automatic transforming 8-piece combination. And the third and the fourth character from the left there are interesting. It's bianxing, which is shape changing or transforming. And in the real stylized name for transformers in Chinese, it's bianxing jingang, which is transforming like super robot. So you see a little bit of a connection to actual transformers there. And now we move over to the bottom right with a little more of the value prop here, which is something like 10 plus steps Eagle King super robot. So again, we see Eagle King, just like those two characters at the very top. So now it sounds like they're talking about the robot itself, even though in a different spot it was called the Dinoking. And then those final two characters are the other half of the Transformers name, Jingang, that thing that's used for super robot, although it's not a direct literal translation. And before we finish up the front side of the card, I just want to take a moment to appreciate this artwork of the Pretender shells. So clearly this is about the dinosaurs. None of the shells are actually included in the set, but because it's a knockoff of Dinoking, why not? And now we'll flip over to the back of the card where everything is in English. And the title of the toy now is Biological Chemistry Dinosaur Core, which is interesting. Nothing about biological or chemistry was on the front side of the page. It's also interesting that all the product shots are of the actual Dinoking, including the Pretender shells. So let's get back into the toy. And as we go through it, you don't have to listen to any more of my bad Chinese or Japanese, but I will label for you which character is which so you can keep track of the Dinoking and Monstructor connection there. I think this is one of the things that makes the toy great. This is where we'll see how so much of the detail has actually been preserved. Starting off with the removal of the head and the removal of the arm. You can see it just goes into a socket. There's no particular spring that clamps down on that socket, but that's the case with the real toy too. Then the fists slide in on these tracks, and that's been replicated exactly here. So that's exactly the same mechanism that's on the original toy. Now we'll remove the upper part of the chest. So the chest torso area is actually two bots, just like the real toy. Thankfully here there's no gold plastic syndrome to deal with, but I admit that the fitment is not quite as precise as the original. And the midsection just slides out the top of that waist piece. And the only thing needed to get the waist piece completely free is to remove the legs. And when we look at the legs, you see another example just side by side. It is exactly the same design, the same mechanism. It's just these two pegs that fit into a couple of holes, and it pops out pretty easily. Once the legs are disconnected, we just need to remove the feet, and then the bots are totally free. These two leg bots are actually the least unique of the set. They are almost exactly the same design, just with the difference in the head sculpt. And with everything disassembled, let's transform them into robot mode so we can look at the full set. And I have to say, they're a pretty good looking bunch. Imagine if the colors were right. That would be a really striking effect. And here they are in their monster modes. At this point, there's nothing about this that has anything to do with dinosaurs. And that's also an area where Dinoking fell apart originally as well. So you would be forgiven for insisting that this is actually Monstructor and not Dinoking. And now I find myself looking at an uncombined pile of combiner parts. So let's take care of that. We're going to do a quick combination. We'll start off with the legs. Let's get the feet on there. I like how the heads just kind of fit into this recess in the foot. Then we'll move on to the waist piece and the abdomen bot. Then the chest bot. We're going to have to get some arms on there. One and then the other. And then let's put on the head. So what makes this toy great? Well, Eagle King here is an oversized KO of the original G1 Monstructor and or Dinoking with an unusual level of detail compared to the typical souvenir shop transformer. His packaging is also fantastic. I love all those marketing statements and how they bring you right back to that era of bootlegs. And if you enjoy this sort of thing, I hope you'll take a look at some of the other videos on the channel. We talk about history and trivia, engineering details, repair techniques. Say hi in the comments. Let me know if you have a taxonomy for the difference between bootlegs and counterfeits, etc. If you'd like to chip in to help me acquire broken toys for a future project, there's a link for that in the description. And as always, I hope you found this information useful, and we'll see you next time.